Well, hello, dear listeners and dear viewers. Welcome to a new series called 15 Minutes with Greg and Michelle, where we talk about the unseen process of recruiting and where you find out what happens after you click submit. I'm your host, Michelle Clark Series, and with me is my dear guest co host, expert in everything, all things recruiting, Greg Idlin. Greg, how are you?
I'm doing well, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to starting this series with you together.
I know it's going to be fun. We're going to do it for the month of November. I think it'll be great. We'll get to hear about recruiting and what happens, right? The unseen process.
Yep,
Now, you're a partner at ACG Resources. Tell us about ACG and tell us about what you do.
sure. ACG Resources is a family-owned staff and recruiting firm. I'm sure some of your listeners and viewers have seen my father, Len, um, on some of your podcasts. Um, we do everything from C-level down across the organizational chart on a national basis. So I work with candidates of all levels and from a variety of different industries.
Okay. And what do you do, Greg?
My job at ACG, what don't I do? Being a partner in a small family business, I get to do a little bit of everything. So it's operations, business development, as well as candidate development and recruiting. So I am frequently seeing resumes, talking to candidates, and speaking to clients and getting their feedback on resumes as well.
Ooh, okay. So, Greg, I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, you got a lot of initials after your name. What do they stand for?
Uh, each initial after my name, one of them is my education. So I
Hmm.
have a master's in industrial and organizational psychology. And then the other letters, not to break it down for time reasons, are different certifications from National Association of Personnel Services, as well as the American Staffing Association, which just recognizes my studies of the staff and recruiting industry, I guess is the best way to word it.
Okay, okay. So you're an expert, Greg, right? You're an expert in the field of recruiting. So let's talk about it. When an applicant submits an application to you,
Mhm.
what do you see on your side of the computer?
So depending on the different sources, when an applicant submits a resume, most of the times what I'll get is either a cover letter followed up by the resume or the resume itself with a nice email. Um, on that resume, I've seen a variety of different things, whether it's a lot of times individuals that are doing marketing, they like to put a lot of graphics on their resume and it's a very unique resume. Um, Other individuals, they'll do a functional resume where it's not broken down chronologically, but it's skills first and then their work experience underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Other candidates will send over the traditional resume of chronological experience, most recent job, most recent title, and work their way down.
Okay, so when you so let's get to the juicy stuff.
Sure, let's
What
go for
happens? Does it matter that a resume has graphics on it or not?
it. It does and it doesn't. That's a twofold question. I could understand and appreciate someone who is marketing or graphics, doing graphic development or anything like that, having the graphics on their resumes. However, a lot of technologies and applicant tracking systems are not fans of graphics because it doesn't parse in nice. It adds letters to names. When it goes through PDF parser, a lot of times there's spacing. So by the time the resume gets into the system, there's a lot of lost information
Oh,
or there's a lot of missing information.
ooh, now you just mentioned another initial set of initials, ATS, Automated Tracking System. Tell us about what that is.
Sure. So an automated tracking system or applicant tracking system, I should say, I'm sorry, is a system that most large companies use. And I should say, actually, most companies use nowadays and most recruiting firms. And this is basically the core system to any talent acquisition process. In an ATS, there's resumes, candidate information, and it tracks what jobs they're applying to, what jobs they're being sent to, if it's on a recruiting side, to what clients, interviews, as well as anywhere this candidate has been placed. On the corporate side, a lot of institutions, banks, insurance companies, they'll have an applicant tracking system to track their sources of candidates. Where are they coming from? iSIMS is a large applicant tracking system. Bullhorn, ADP, Workforce Now has one. Taleo, there's a lot of different applicant tracking systems. So usually when you click and apply on a website, if you look up on the hyperlink, you'll see it says Taleo or iSIMS or something else branded with that company.
Okay, so the applicant tracking system is a very important part of the process. When applying for a job, what would you say you see that applicants need to work on?
First and foremost, I would probably say the most important thing an applicant can work on is paying attention to the details of the job they're applying for.
Okay.
A lot of different tools out there and job boards, I don't want to use any names, will allow mass apply features where a candidate could apply to 20 or 30 jobs with one click. Not always the best approach, especially when some of those jobs may be at the same company. Why? Because the talent acquisition person on the side may have seen this person's application 30 times to 30 different jobs if it's a larger company, and they may be a serial applier, which shows that they're not maybe taking attention to what they're applying for. Also, I've written a lot in the past. Job applying is a community effort. Applicants should be considerate to everyone else that's applying to jobs. So if you're applying for a job you're not right for, you're exhausting the person on the other end that has to review these resumes. It may bump out the qualified person just out of the mere fact that they're, 30 applications down now and a good candidate came from another source.
Oh, that's the first time I've heard someone say that the applicant should be considerate to the reviewer of their application. That's interesting. That's okay. On average, how many applications do you review a day?
Depends on the day, it depends on the job. It could be anywhere from 15 to 150. We've seen them come in on, C-level roles, chief financial officers. That gets a lot of applications. Everyone loves being a CFO. It's a great job. Administrative assistants, that generates a lot of applications. But then there's other jobs that people just don't apply for. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, maybe an insurance sales producer. A qualified insurance sales producer usually is not applying for a job. They have to be the ones that are poached or passive and need to be intrigued about an opportunity and need a recruiter's effort.
Okay, so on average, it varies. You get anything from between 15 to 150 applications a day. How much time do you spend reviewing an application?
I could probably read a resume in about 15 seconds to make a match to the job. To actually review it for feedback, quality skills, anything that could be adjusted, I could probably do that in about a minute. Intense, I would say a good talent acquisition person could probably tell in about 5 to 10 seconds if it's a qualified candidate or suitable candidate, or if the resume is well written.
5 to 10 seconds.
Yep, I think a large portion of it's going to be formatting. Rule of thumb, most people only read the first third to something. So that's where most of your information should be.
Yes, yes. As a career coach, I do tell my clients that the top of their resume is prime real estate. Do you agree with that?
100%. That's your Park Avenue and your Broadway on the Monopoly board.
I like I like that. I like that. Okay, so what happens if the application you're seeing is the right fit? What happens next?
The next step to that is usually a phone call. It's the reach out. It's the getting them to speak further about their skills, going through their resume with them, understanding if the person's a fit for my client. Since I am an agency recruiter, I'm working on behalf of clients. So my goal is to make that match. It's almost like a match.com, except for jobs.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, you brought up an interesting distinction. You're an agency recruiter, so you work for the client. Tell us
Mhm.
about when, do you work also for companies?
Well, yeah, that would be basically all clients are companies looking to hire.
Got it.
So, yep. So, recruiting firms, they sign contracts with various clients for a variety of reasons. One may be it's a confidential search and they don't want it to be pushed out to the marketplace too much that they're looking, or maybe it's an internal replacement, someone they may be planning to terminate, or an organizational change. Another time they would use a recruiter is for those passive candidates. Um, Internal talent acquisition teams may not be able to call upon certain candidates at certain companies or use some of the methods that a recruiting firm can. And another time is a talent acquisition team may be stretched for resources. They don't have enough time or resources to sit there and actually handle all the applications coming in and doing the screenings, because human resources are
Mhm.
pulled in a million directions, wearing a million hats.
Right, right. So so in addition to helping HR departments for companies, do you also provide feedback to them on an approach or give them advice?
Give the human resource department advice.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah, pretty often I'll give them feedback on, a lot of times, maybe their reputation in the marketplace. I've worked with clients where they may not have the best reputation for whatever reasons. And I try to be as transparent as possible both ways, with candidates and with clients. So when I am working with a client, if they have a negative reputation, I'll try to address it and figure out where that's coming from or why. When I'm working on the candidate side and they know who the client is and they
Mhm.
find out, we try to address any negative views from that way. Our approach is not to disclose who our client is, to reduce bias from one side, because a lot of times the candidate may hear a company and may not want to go work there just for the mere fact of the name, or they may have heard something. So I try to tell them about the client first, what they're offering, what the opportunity is, so the candidate will at least get engaged to say, hey, maybe this is right for me, or maybe this is a good opportunity based on what you described. And I get to understand the chemistry from the back end and learn about the nuances of the company a lot of times beyond the name. So I can get that in front of a candidate first
Right.
before the candidate learns it on a biased view.
Oh, okay, okay. Now, set the record straight.
Sure.
Does it matter if a client is referred to you from someone else, a fellow recruiter, or not?
When you say client, you mean company?
I mean individual. Thank you.
Okay. So when we're talking about candidates,
Mm-hmm.
we would not refer to a candidate as a client, since a candidate would be basically what we're supplying for our clients.
Right.
When a candidate's referred to us by another recruiter, um, that's very rare. It happens, I guess, would be the best way.
Because
Um,
they would be giving up their business and sending it over to you. Is that why?
exactly. I mean, there will
Uh,
be times where maybe there's an industry I don't work in at all, and I'm very willing to give them names of other recruiting firms to look at that are maybe certified by American Staffing Association or National Association of Personnel Services, or someone that I just know is reputable that maybe will help them.
right.
Um, my approach is do it at an arm's length approach. I don't, I usually don't even include myself on an email. I just tell them, hey, go reach out to so and so,
Mm-hmm.
or look at this firm. They'll probably be able to help you a lot better than I can. Because for my goal, it's not just to get paid; it's to actually help someone.
Okay. Well, since this series is 15 minutes in duration, Greg,
Mhm.
um, what have we not covered in the initial stages of an application that we should discuss before we end this episode?
Sure. So the initial process of the application, I guess the best advice I could always give is take time to actually review what you're applying for. The job application process can be frustrating. I understand that. I empathize
Mhm.
for that as well. Um, I can understand candidates will get fatigued. So there's a point where they just want to keep clicking and keep applying and really take it's a numbers game approach, that's not always the best approach. It works the same way from our side. Sometimes quality is better than quantity. As far as cover letters go, I always say try to keep them brief. Try not to be too lengthy on them. A lot of times, I have to be honest, just for the time constraints, I don't read cover letters that thoroughly. I'm looking at the skills. My goal is to make sure that candidate is qualified based on the resume. Make sure when you're applying you're actually uploading the correct documents. I can't tell you how many times I've seen licenses get uploaded because someone selected the wrong file from their desktop, or a family photo, or yeah, I think one of my best was someone sent a screenshot of Yeezys, the sneakers.
Oh no.
So people don't realize what they're clicking. I had someone's tax returns uploaded. I mean, there's various things that be really careful before you hit submit what file you're selecting from your computer. And another thing I would always suggest is just make sure that your resume sells your skills correctly. Make sure, like you said, that prime real estate's used to emphasize your skills for what you actually do and what you're applying for. Don't take information for granted. Don't assume that the person on the other end knows you have something. Microsoft Office, I would assume a lot of people have it this day and age. However, it's not in your resume. There's a lot of technology used that's not going to pick up on your skill set if it's not listed. Be considerate of the fact that there's not just a person on the other side of the desk anymore. There's a lot of technology in place as well. So yeah,
okay.
Covers it.
That's a lot, but it's very insightful. I think the next show we should talk about what your day-to-day looks like the life and day in the life of your role. And let's talk also more about the artificial intelligence part of it. What do you think, Greg?
I think that's great, and I would be open as well to any suggestions to anyone listening or watching this. If they have anything specific that they'd like us to cover, I'm more than willing to give as much insight on it as I can.
Perfect. Well, Greg, thank you for taking the time out to do this series. I'm really excited about it. Thanks
Me
for
too.
your feedback. There's our alarm. And let me try to turn it off. Goodness. Okay, a little blooper there. Thank you everyone for viewing and watching. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.